TEC meeting. So let's call the meeting to order, and let's begin with a roll call, please.
Chairman Myjack,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Thompson, Member Burdette,
Here.
Member Tucker,
Here.
Member Miller,
Here.
Member Delgado,
Here.
Member Nico,
Here.
Alternate Member Young, Alternate Member Rosa.
Up next is an approval of the minutes, so I'll take a motion on that.
Can I say something before that? Or do we have to have a motion to talk about it? I have a change.
You would like to request a change to the agenda?
Minutes.
To the minutes? Oh, well, yes, of course, but usually we do a vote and then
Motion.
have the discussion on what
Okay,
the edits
okay.
are. If that's okay. Well, let's start discussing.
I motion that we approve the minutes from last time.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Second for discussion.
Yes.
Fire away.
Oh, it has me voting, and I don't think I was at the meeting.
Was this the
So
one that you
it's
missed?
just a typo, I'm sure, but everywhere there was a vote, I was listed.
You were here in spirit, I
I
guess.
think that was me
Okay.
just copy and pasting it through
Okay.
from a
I just-
template. I'm
okay.
sorry. Yeah, you're right.
I checked the date, and I thought, well, maybe this was a month before. Okay.
Sounds
Good
like a
catch.
rookie mistake. Yeah, that's all it is. Any other recommended changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. We have petitions and requests from the public up next, and the public is Stan. Welcome, Stan.
Okay, Stan Johnston. Been a resident here for over 50 years, and I brought this with me. It says "Desiderata," and I'm going to read just the first sentence of it. It says, because a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not going along with this thing." It says, "Go placidly amid the noise and haste. Remember what peace there may be in silence, as far as possible without surrender, be on good terms with all persons." I read that to you because it says about the surrender things. And I think that we shouldn't surrender. And we have some things that people are surrendering today here in the city of Titusville. And in our nation, for example, is that many people in the military were told that Agent Orange was not a big deal. Of course, they've died of it. I've had friends die of prostrate and of other problems by Agent Orange, and I believe that there are more people who died who went to Vietnam than those who died in Vietnam. I've got, I'm wearing this Navy veteran hat. I didn't go over to Nam, but my dad was a veteran. I got 3 uncles that were veterans. I got a great-grandfather who was shot, and he was a prisoner of war, and I have a great-uncle who died in a prisoner of war camp. But the things that what is bothering me is something that a lot of people want me to give up on, and that is what the city has done with this. I have many people come to me and say, "Shut your mouth about it. We've heard it enough." Spraying people with sewage. Now, I want to say that it's disappointing to me that council, 4 members of council, still don't recognize this is a problem at all. And they have some kind of weird justification of it, which doesn't make sense. But I want to say that this is hard. I'm saying this as a professional engineer, this is harmful to the health, and yet the city has 4 council members who say it's not harmful. It's okay. It's okay to do that. But the thing is that we have even learned as a child, or even before kindergarten, that sewage is harmful to the health, and it should be regarded that way. But however, the city of Titusville has sprayed sewage in the air, in aerosol, for months, and says it's okay to do that, but it's not okay. So I'm asking you to continue what you've also done in the past, and some other agencies, is that to say it's not healthful, but you don't have to argue it a lot. I'm just saying this is just something that that really grates me a lot, because I'm a professional engineer and I'm completely disregarded for my status to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. This is one of and what we understand is that the question is, who writes the history? It's the history. It's whoever wins. In this case, this is an example of one of the signs I had that was taken away from the ponds, and I was able to get it back. But they also took some of my signs, and so it says here. It says that it says this dated December the 22nd. On December the 19th or thereabouts, the city said they contained it. They didn't. It was flowing in FDO in right away of US 1. It was flowing to Spaceview Park for months. For months. So anyhow, so the written history is it's not true what I'm saying to you. So I'm asking you to in this case of what I read to you, it says about surrendering. It says beyond surrender. I read that to you. What a lot of people are doing in the city of Titusville, they're surrendering to dishonesty. And this is examples I've given you, surrendering to dishonesty. I'm asking you to continue to tell the truth in spite of the dishonesty that we have in our city. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, let's see. We have old business and new business, and we have people here for new business. So why don't we put the old business on the back burner and move new business to current? Please, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we rearrange the agenda and put new business in front of old business.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll second that.
Oh. That's okay, we can third if you like. That's. Any discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign? It passes unanimously. Great. Let's move on to new business. Well, I guess staff, this one's up to you. Shall we do a coin toss or rock, paper, scissors?
Well, we took, hi, I'm Sandy Reller, I'm the Public Works Director. We took alternative water supply, brackish water source feasibility study task order to council a month ago now, and they recommended, they wanted to see TEC's opinion and recommendation to move forward with that. So that has been attached to your agenda item. Some of the discussion at that council meeting was questioning other sources of alternative water supply. So we did ask the same consultant to give us a task order for looking at those other sources. So there, that one is also prior to looking at which chosen alternative water source we would go with. So there's a second task order that kind of does a preliminary high-level look at, I think, 6 of them, which you can see in the staff report that we put together, a short overview of possible alternative water sources or storage or well field recharge, and some opinions, some staff recommendations. So I think it's up to you to discuss, ask questions, and provide council a recommendation to move forward.
Well, What say you, Board of TEC? Do you have questions for staff? Surely you do.
So just so I'm clear, we're just making a recommendation whether or not to go forward with these evaluations?
Yes, we're not looking at currently replacing our current well field. We're looking at, as you are all aware, cities, including us, are getting close to our consumptive use permit. We're getting close to, where our cap for that water. If we want to increase that with St. John's, we have to show that we're looking at other alternative water sources. And that would be in conjunction with our current well field right now. Eventually, maybe 50 years down the road, our current well field might not have any water, and these alternative water sources will be where we get the water from. So we recommended looking at brackish because it is drought, it's drought proof, and St. John's won't have, there is no cup because there's an unlimited source, groundwater brackish. But this is just the preliminary feasibility. Can we do it? Can we do a hybrid with our current? What are we going to do with the brine? All that preliminary before we even spend a lot of money looking at the design and moving forward. Is this the way to go? Can we do it? And what's the feasibility?
I mean, as I looked through all this over the last few days, the second item, just the alternative water sources, I feel like those are all, and there's some good options there, I think, but I felt like overall, seeing what they came back with the brackish water feasibility, I feel like it's going to be very valuable. And Mike, I know you've brought up some of the brackish water concerns, and I absolutely agree with those, and I've tried to dig into it as much as I can, but I feel like getting that feasibility study is definitely the first step to really being able to look at this. I have lots of questions about the brackish water, but they're questions that I don't feel like are going to be answered here and now by staff. Like they're questions that I would want to know once this report is done and see what kind of things it shows. So, I feel like the brackish water study would be viable and important. Person.
Hector?
So let me understand. The St. John's Water Management District has a deadline for the usage of water, and therefore you're trying to satisfy that with, in the future, these could be sources of water? Is that as clear as that?
Yeah, pretty much. We're needing to increase our current consumptive use permit. So in order to do that, they're going to want to see that we're looking at this future possibility of how other water sources. I just was at a meeting with them this morning and they mentioned it. I took a picture of their slide.
Okay, so since this is not the first time that this happens, because it happens every how many years, what is the cycle on this?
Yeah, the current cup is through 2030. So, but if your needs get to those values beforehand, that's a reason we would go before St. John's. Otherwise, 2030, you have to do a reallocation.
Yeah, that answers the future deadline, but what is the cycle of reporting to the St. John Water District? Is it every 10 years, or is it 5 years, is it 3 years?
I think it's every 20. Like the current one was done 2010.
That's what I was trying to get.
Ashley Smith, Assistant Public Works Director, by the way.
Okay, nice to meet you, but what I was getting at is the last time the city did this, the city was a much smaller city. The city made some projections about population.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you or your department go back and take a look at those numbers that were given to them and say, oh, by the way, now we just happen to have 50,000 people now versus the 38 or something that might have been then? I'm just using, I've been in the city for a long time.
That is part of our exercise to go to St. John's, is looking at our current demands and estimated populations, and that's part of how you justify to them an increase, basically. Whether our population has maybe increased faster than we expected, or demands are just higher in general, but that's part of it. But the alternative water, they want to see that communities are considering that too even with the demands we have today.
Right, so you have looking forward and looking back and see whether you met your goals, surpassed them, or otherwise. And then that's part of your report.
Yeah, that's part of our request to even make a request with them. We have to do that whole entire exercise.
Okay, and so, given that, what is your requirement? Just to say, I'm gonna look at these different types of waters for future use? Or do you have to justify whatever you pick, like brackish water or reclaimed water or any other kind of water?
I don't think you have to justify which one. I think, they have their typical ones, and as long as you say, this is what we're looking at, these are the steps we've taken, this is where, we think we're going. But I think they'd be happy with any of them that are feasible. Like I've seen brackish water, that seems to be the most, have seen reclaim, reuse.
Yeah, I don't think it's a commitment, which is what you're maybe looking for. It's just presenting to them that we're looking into those feasible options, but it's not a commitment saying this is the path we're going for at this time.
So it's just a list of options. This is what I'm gonna be looking at between now and 30.
A list of options and showing that we're moving forward, showing that, council has funded this type of study. We're not just saying we're going to do it, we're showing action.
So that's what that was my next set of questions is the funding required on any of those? Like, okay, I went with XYZ Associates, water people, and they're gonna look at brackish water. And I have a contract with them, or I'm gonna have a contract with them. Like, what are the legalities of what you're putting down on paper?
I don't think that they have specific requirements, but I think it does look better to say that we have already begun a feasibility that's under contract to look at these alternative waters. We wouldn't present something to St. John's that has not been committed. I don't think, like what Sandy was saying, we don't want to go and say we might do this and there's no real commitment. I think if this brackish water study or the other alternative study is approved by council, that's what we want to present to St. John's to say, we have approved this and it's underway. But what those future steps are would still be unknown.
There is no cut or dry. You have to show me this. I think they look at what you're doing and say, okay, we see that you're progressing towards this. We can increase your cup by this, or you're not doing anything. We're keeping your cup the same. So I don't think there's a cut and fast. You must follow these.
I was just trying to get what's the minimum and what else?
I would expect that if we have an alternate water supply, they may change our well field sources.
Yeah.
Because our superficial aquifer is the most at risk. Our Floridian is not.
Right.
So St. John's may want to phase out of 2 and 3 if we do have an alternate source.
Okay.
So we could anticipate that in a long-term plan. There may be commitments to phase out those well fields. They've been dialed back. In the current cup, they will dial back from their previous cups because they are forced implementation. So I would expect if we do have an alternate source, they will dial those back further or take them out of circulation. Because those are the 2 susceptible well fields to salinity. They will go salt if they continue. So.
Kevin, you noted in here under item 3 about ASR that you say ASR is not a new water source. It does not create additional water supply. I beg to differ. That's exactly what it's designed to do, at least with the publication that I saw from the EPA that recommends that ASR is one of the better sources of where to sink your stormwater when you have an excess. So our well fields are drying up, I believe, because we're pulling out more water than our impervious surface on top now allows to recover. And the more we have grown, the more impervious surface we have made, which means less and less water goes into the well field. So about 30 years ago, we started sucking up salt water because we had reduced the hydrologic pressure of the fresh water on top of the saltwater field below. Well, the only way that you recover that is you put water back in the ground. And we're not doing that. In fact, you're not even studying that because you claim it doesn't work.
If
And
you-
I beg to differ.
If you look at the last one, stormwater capture, it does recommend that expanding stormwater reuse through the city and exploring recharge that is percolated through the soil is recommended over direct injection. I think as we discussed, I think we can move forward with looking at this brackish alternative water supply while also looking at a well field recharge feasibility that utilizes stormwater or reclaimed and also do those concurrently at the same time.
I would agree with that we need to be doing both, because this is a longer-term recovery process. I was here when they built Astronaut High School and when we created the area of critical concern. We defined it, but we really didn't honor it. And we don't really use that methodology that we planned for that throughout the city, which, why shouldn't we do pervious pavement everywhere? The simple things that help water get back in the ground. They help get rid of stormwater. I don't know why we don't require that, but that to me is just a no-brainer. So there are things that we can do that we need to do to start reducing our stormwater and our flooding. Wetlands is one of them. That's one of the things that we're working on. But how we can capture that water and where to put it and putting it in the ground where we need it most, that's almost like a win-win-win. Right? I mean, you're taking water out of where you don't want it to go, which is the lagoon, and you're putting it where you want it to go, which is into the aquifer, and you're doing two things. Not only are you getting water that you'll get back later, but you will also recover that aquifer and continue to push that salt water down, increasing the hydrostatic pressure and increasing the size of your reservoir. You can't help but do that. That's just the confining karst layer that we have here. So we should make use of that where other places in the county can't. And we should absolutely have a study in parallel that looks at that as well.
Yeah. Some time back, the city of Rockledge was one of the first cities to use injection wells as return to the aquifer water. So there's got to be some data from these guys that, and that was done locally. I know that because I knew that I worked with the mayor of Rockledge at the time. And so that was a project that they have for when you could not get rid of reclaimed water that nobody wanted. And we've been through that. Okay? The schools and the golf guys didn't want it. Nobody wanted. I was one of the first ones to hook up at La Cita when it was offered. So I lived through all of that. I've been here long enough for that. But you may want to look into the city of Rockledge and their history of injection. I believe they have done that. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but we may want to learn some lessons learned from them anyway.
We actually do have a study going on right now, looking at reclaimed ASR wells for the plants. So when we have excess, it doesn't go into the river, we can inject it in. So we've already started that study. But that's not well field recharge, that's somewhere to store it at the plants.
Right,
but yes, I agree.
This will give you a way to store it.
Yep.
And send it down and create your curtain of fresh water against the curtain of salt water coming in.
Right.
And let science take care of itself.
Member Tucker?
Totally off this subject, but curious. Is there an urban service boundary in our, okay, so is there a finite limit? I mean, there's going to be a point where we get to that limit and no growth. So I just wondered if that was part of the equation.
I think you mean as development's coming, we do look at concurrency. That's one of the early stages where we look at our existing demands at that time, and it takes into account an annual average. And then we also look at other development that's in the queue to evaluate, is there available excess capacity for what's being proposed? And then later in the process of when development is happening, we do a similar review with water allocation requests. I think that's what you're kind of asking.
Or were you asking that, at some point we're going to be built out, do we need all this water?
No,
No?
that was the point, though.
Okay.
At some point, we will be built out. Will there be enough water?
When we're built out.
So that's part of our,
That part of the projection for the future.
and that's part of our discussions with St. John's is that cup allocation. That's the limitation of how much water we're allowed to take out of the ground right now. So that takes into account population, development, and making that request if we're justified in an increase to continue serving, but they want us to look at alternative water
So they're
sources.
wanting us to stay ahead of the progress, ahead of the development, basically.
You do have to prove to them what our population is right now, what our demands are right now, and then projecting that out. So if you start seeing that our existing cup is getting limited, then that would be a justification if we can prove the population increases would justify an increase.
Okay.
What happens when the district no longer allows increases?
So that's when you essentially do have to have an alternative water supply source,
What
a
if you
different
don't?
source.
You hit the limit. That's
Then we
it.
can't,
No more.
service.
We
new
can't
development.
service anyone more. It would only be existing.
So then we finally pull back on the gas, on the development gas pedal.
They can do wells, there's other options for them.
No, they have
but,
to go to
yeah.
the district to
Yeah,
get a permit
correct.
for that. I mean, again, it gets
Yeah.
back to the
It
same
just-
thing. They're pulling
wouldn't
from
be
the same
serviced
superficial aquifer that
from
well fields 2 and 3 are. So, it's a really good question. It begs to differ. We don't live in a limitless society, in a limitless world. We have finite resources. We got to recover the water wherever we can, right?
That's why we want to look at these.
Or stop developing on it, so and using more of it, because at some point, what? Are we gonna start going dry? We had a hiccup back in the 90s that caused us to have to eventually end up with this debt that we now have for Wellfield 4. That wasn't as well thought out as originally planned. It would have been nice if we actually owned the property and owned the well field. But we had to make a quick move because we started souring our wells because we were overdeveloped. That happened after Astronaut High School was built, and we didn't realize the impact that we had had. And we really, I don't think, still understand the ramifications of it. But we are suffering from that, and the need for more water is because of our need for growth. There's a finite amount of it, and at some point, the district may not allow us anymore. So we have to be prepared for that too. So recovering and reusing what we have in every way possible going forward reuse is going to have to become the name of the game everywhere we can. Capture, reutilize, and recover.
I guess a procedural question. So like I said a little bit ago, I'm in favor of looking into the brackish water option, but I also do agree with Mike that the ASR, as it says in here, might be a good complement to the brackish water. So just because I don't totally understand the work order stuff and all that, like, could that be included in that brackish water study, or does that need to be a separate thing?
That would be my suggestion, is we can move forward with issuing the task order for the brackish water with a recommendation to go to them for a change order to come back and say, hey, we also at the same time want to concurrently look at ASR with stormwater reclaim reuse. So I don't think it makes sense to have two separate people looking at this.
Right.
I think having it concurrently, so we can bring it, whatever your suggestion is, I can bring to council and say, we can either approve this task order now and come back with you with that change order, or we can go table it again, get the whole shebang to say from the current, and then approve that. So there's two ways to go. I don't think we can get, because this is going on the 28th as council tabled 28th. I don't think we can get the total price from the consultant by then. But I think, it's up to council whether they want to move forward at the 28th, and then we bring the extra change order back to them, or table it again and bring the whole thing. So that'll be up to them. But you guys would recommend what you would want to move forward with.
Yes, talking about whoever's gonna do this, are there a lot of people with recharge experience around the state? That can actually say, we did this, we done this, and we know what happens, and we understand the aquifer, and in different areas of the state, it's totally different because it's a series of caverns. Just because they're an A&E doesn't mean they can do everything. Yes, I will raise my hand and go, yes, I can do that. And then, go to AI and see what it says. Or go to Microsoft and find out. I have experience on a lot of that, so I can speak that way. Because I saw it a lot, because what I was asking did not exist. So therefore I had, oh yeah, we can build what? No, you can't. Nobody has it. So again, I'll go back to, do these people have some background in what we're asking them to do?
Yeah, they have background in it. They also can sub to hydrogeologists to do the underground effort.
Okay.
It really is depending on what's being asked. Brackish water supply is going to be a different look than the ASR system. The ASR concept we have currently working on the reclamation side is for pure reclaim, is for byproducts of the sewer plants.
Right.
Not necessarily creating an ASR pocket inside the well field. They're creating them for the purpose of the reuse system, mainly for disposal.
Right.
We're not looking for withdrawal again. We're looking to dispose of the product, over product we have during storms. Not during regular days. We have the ability to discharge without that. But for the brackish water, they're really going to give us a hydrogeological look at what that water looks like when it touches our lime softening plant. Is our plant even capable of treating it? Can it be blended? There's going to be a whole bunch of information that come out of that. Right, the last time they looked at it, they said blending an RO and lime softening at our current plant was the best option. We have talked about doing an RO plant in the well fields to allow them to be sourced, so not completely treated, enough for lime softening to finish it. But those are the options they're going to give us. But certainly this company can handle that level of view. As it gets tighter into more details of well drilling and things, those would be very specific hydrogeological groups that will come in.
Injection is another science
Yeah.
altogether.
Right.
Because of the aquifer. And that's why I asked the question the way I did, Kevin. So that, we get the right people, not that they go out and say, okay, who else has been doing this? I lived in the city long enough when Chem 2 Hill was doing the Barna Field well, and it was a disaster. And they're a great company, and they do a lot of water. And I have friends that work there, but Florida is not the same everywhere. And so that's why I asked that question. I learned the hard way at work, out of the gate. The same thing, I had the same issues. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we just don't do in addition to the work order.
I think that's what you have to remember. This is the feasibility part of it. So yeah.
Even if feasibility,
Yeah.
even if feasibility, so many hours that I'm going to charge you, no matter what. There'll be hours to charge to something, and I don't want to have the injection portion be the stepchild of this work order, because it's hard. Okay, that's my concern. I think it's important enough that maybe a little digging into the A&E world of water in the state, and see who's doing something like that, or has done something like that,
But you can make that
Rocket.
recommendation to council too, is to just move forward with the brackish water side and then look at a separate task order to do the well field recharge injection, look at it too. To me, I would take your recommendation.
I heard what you said, and I don't want to be stopping progress, okay? But also I would like to have someone who has some idea of what putting reclaimed water in an injection area to a piece of an aquifer, what it does.
I would make a recommendation. We can ask our consultant to provide history of the other projects they've done, other cities that they've done, specific to task orders like this. They're a very large firm, so I expect them to have a list of experience that then we could supply
Is it
So-
BFA Environmental Consultants doing the study?
No, this is CDM Smith. We don't currently have a contract with BFA. The city doesn't.
They're the ones that did the study and analysis of the hydrology in our area that caused us to scope out Wellfield 4. So it just seems like they've already got a lot of that data.
Yeah, so when the city redid the water resources consultants, probably been almost a decade ago, the choice was made to move to larger firms that have more diverse ability than specialized firms. So these larger firms will bring in the hydrogeologists to supplement their staff when they need to, but the reason why we ended up with the ACOMs and the CDM Smiths, right peers, is that beyond the hydrogeology, those firms have the ability to literally do the plant.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
where
they do.
BFA was a very specific, very specialized group that could not do general civil work. So these groups can bring them in while they can handle the heavy lift of what a pump looks like.
Yeah.
And just one suggestion on the recharge thought. We can always ask a consultant to kind of come with the gamut of how to recharge the 2 well fields we have and bring in, because reclaim above ground is also an option. We have reclaim in Area 3 already. And that was one of the concepts we had staff-wise, was running that into the well field, using it at surface level as exfiltration trenching into our system. Understanding that it does burn water resources that are being used by our residents because they do use it for irrigation offsets. But that is an option we would have, and letting them look at stormwater reclaim, whatever they can get their hands on to bring to that well field area and put it into the sand ridge and see what they can do with it, whether it be injectable, non-injectable, because a lot of that's going to fall back to cost and service times. So
I'm just thinking of that. What's the flow out of a 5-foot diameter pipe? What's the flow rate you can get out of a 5-foot diameter? I mean,
More
that's
than
what's
our plant puts out.
That's what's coming out of the John Street that's dumping our wetlands right now. You talk about water going into the ground. I mean, there's a 5-foot diameter pipe that's flowing to this day. And it's not raining, and it's still flowing in the dry season. When we're in a drought, you want water to put in the ground, there it is. We just have to redirect it. There's a lot of it. That's why I'm asking, 5-foot diameter pipe, what's the flow rate? I mean, there's got to
1,200
be
gallons a minute, I would guess.
100,000?
1,200,
1,200
depending on the slope.
per minute?
Yeah. Guesstimate, yeah.
That's a lot of water.
Ask it, yeah. It's a lot of variables in that, but that would, scaling up from a smaller pipe, I think that's probably, yeah. I think in that scenario, the challenge is the pump station that pumps it to there, you won't be able to use a 5-foot diameter pipe, it'll be under pressure.
It's 72 million gallons an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't even have the limb to sketch that on. That's a tremendous amount of water that we're wasting, is what I'm getting at. We need to recover. We need to I'm going to be asking the same of the Space Center. I think we should be doing the same of our city. So, Member Miller?
Yeah, I would make a motion to recommend to council that they go forward with the brackish water study, but also to include a look into the aquifer storage and recovery.
Study.
Yes. Yes, study. Yes, correct.
I'll second that. You can second that. You want to second that?
I will second that.
Hector seconds that. Any other discussion? Wow, it's silent. Okay, let's have a roll call vote on this one. This is important.
Member Burdette?
Yes.
Member Delgado?
Okay, before I vote, are you sure you understand what the motion is?
The motion was to recommend to council to move forward with a brackish water study while also looking at an ASR study. Do you want to add a more generic wellfield recharge to that or just ASR?
Yes,
Okay,
that's what I thought.
thank you.
I'm good, yes.
I believe that would have to be made as a new motion rather than modifying the current motion mid-vote.
Chairman? I can be
You
corrected.
seconded. All you have to do is withdraw the second. You are in the driver's seat, my friend. If you withdraw the second, then that gives the motion maker the chance to.
I just wanted to make sure that the car was parallel parked within the lines.
I get you. Mhm,
That's
yep.
all that I was trying to do.
I was going to recommend it to council anyways.
I was watching staff and I was going, is that clear enough? That's all. I just wanted to make sure it was clear. And I think it is
Could do
now.
this.
Withdraw your second.
Just
So I'll
the
withdraw
second.
my second.
Okay, and then we'll restate the motion.
I will modify my motion to include please help me with the verbiage.
Well field recharge.
Well,
ASR
to include ASR study and well field recharge.
Yes. Okay, yes. And the second is,
I can re-second.
we can re-second. Okay, can we just start the voting process all over again, or is there any more discussion? Let's start the voting all over again.
Member Burdette,
Yes.
Member Delgado,
Yes.
Member Nico,
Yes.
Member Tucker,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Thompson,
Yes.
Member Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Majek.
Yes. Yay, good. Go forth and conquer. Get us some water.
Thank you all for the work on this.
Thank you for your work. On to old stuff. Back to wetlands, where we can capture more stormwater. Are you going to take any of them tomorrow with the EELS SPC, the Selection Management Committee? You want to invite somebody?
Jason's going.
Well, maybe Sandra or someone from staff? Sandra? Sandra knows?
Did you want to be included in the Environmentally Endangered Land Selection and Management Committee tour tomorrow, or?
Of our wetlands?
Well, we're
It's at
meeting at
9:30.
Dixie Crossroads at 9:30, and if you wanted to come talk to them, that would probably be a good time. If, yeah.
My schedule is very rough, but let me find my phone.
Yeah.
And Lily, you're invited too,
I
if you'd
feel
like to
your
come.
pain. Yes, absolutely, Lily. You're invited too, if you like
9:30.
9:30, and you're meeting at Dixie?
So
Yeah.
I was going to comment on this later during the member reports, but if you'd like, I'll say something now while we're here.
Please.
You know, we had a meeting this morning for SMC. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum, so we weren't able to take any actions. But we did discuss a little more of this wetland area, and that as we go out there and look around, I think from I guess I would say a strategic point of view for the SMC folks, we need to be focused more on the value of that wetland as endangered land, vice any kind of redirection of stormwater. Like talking about its potential for absorbing and that kind of thing. But I think one of the things that scared some of the members at that last meeting was talk about the hydrology and about potentially changing the flows and where those flows are going. I think that really spooked a few of the members. So I hope that tomorrow we'll be able to focus more on, you know, if we can find any endangered species out there, that's a huge thing. And just really focusing on the wetland itself as an endangered land, I think is important for getting SMC support on that land.
Excellent.
Are you going on private property? Do we?
Yes, we have,
Have
SMC
permission?
has access permission. All this is being done through a willing seller application for the 405 Mar property. So we have access, permission, and all that, absolutely.
Do you want me there? Okay. I will move some meetings and make it work.
Thank you.
Real quick before you go, it was offered to get the body of work or the projects that the engineering firm has done in the past. Is that something we could have to take a look at?
Say that again?
The projects that the engineering firm has done in the past in different areas, different cities?
BFA.
Could we get a look?
I'm confused.
The engineering firm who's doing the feasibility project?
Oh, what Ashley was saying about the resumes and stuff?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, if we could
yes.
just get that
Yeah.
information, I'd like to look.
Yep.
Thank
Nope,
you.
No problem.
Almost. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right, on to wetlands. Come on up, Mary. Thank you for joining us tonight. it's not. That's, and what we're talking about is doubling it. Yeah, I would have done two. I would have gone and done the whole thing and then send it to council. All right, let me get back to the agenda here. Should we take an intermission? Or should we take an intermission? Because we have people online. Okay, why don't we take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back when we get ourselves together. Thank you.
Okay,
We gotta wait for the guy in the recording studio. We're still in recess. There we are. All right, now that we're back. Welcome, Mary.
thank
You
you.
have the floor, my dear.
We are changing a little bit of the order because of some of the comments Jason just made, because we would like this to be a timely discussion. Turns out it is quite the timely discussion. I'd like to bring to your attention something we discussed last time and did not finish because we did not have the information. And we were trying to improve strategy 1.16.2.2, and it has to do with the use of conservation land for scrub jay, in particular, possibly scrub jay relocation, and for gopher tortoises. And that historically has been part of the language ever since I've known the language. So you can see on this paper, and he can put it on the screen, and there's, yeah, we'll see if we can get it up there. Yes, okay. For strategy 1.16.2.2, when conservation land use is present on a site, a property owner shall submit a preliminary environmental assessment, including a wetland delineation, when wetlands are present prior to any future development. Well, we know that's already part of the language, so we're trying to avoid, you know, saying the same thing over and over, so that will probably be deleted. Now, what to do about this? Because I remember, you know, when Titusville was just absolutely full of scrub jays. I mean, as a matter of fact, I worked on Grissom while in that industrial park off Grissom, you know, while the building I was working in had asbestos removal. And every morning I'd come into that building and I'd see scrub jays. And now, you know, I'm just wondering how many are in the city. And the same goes for the gopher tortoise. Now, I know that there are requirements FWC has for the gopher tortoises, but we got to get a handle on this thing. And we need more information, so if between now and the next meeting, if anybody has a chance to find out any information on whether or not there are appropriate sites for scrub jays, whether there are scrub jays here within the city limits, or what really, you know, is important to me is it appears that with all the launches at the Cape, the scrub jay population, there's two meta populations there, are going to be declining. You know, it's just all the loud noises and the, I know, if you have a disagreement, please speak up after. But it just seems like we need to be prepared to relocate scrub jays, which has been successful. Definitely has been successful between Crookshank and Malabar scrub, and also, you know, other sites as well. So we want to know what the city is prepared to do about these listed species. These are the main listed species that I can think of that are applicable to Titusville. And the last sentence says, well, first it says that the property owner shall submit an environmental study which confirms the presence and potential locations of state and or federal listed wildlife species. If the study identifies a location or locations on the site for suitable habitat for preservation, and these areas are accepted by the permitting agencies as preservation for the identified species, then the city shall amend the conservation land use to include these areas. So it's not just wetlands, but in some cases, it can be the habitat for the listed species. So we talked about that the last time, and now, if anybody has any comments on that, we'll stop and.
Mary, I do. Every year, we have a couple thousand people that come down in this city to count birds. And they keep records. Aren't those records available from that association that does this?
There's actually a number of different ways. I made myself a little note.
Okay.
Eels, I don't believe eels directly tracks like scrub jays, but I know that we have people we work with. I saw a comment in the minutes about the Brevard Zoo. I know they've got a program for it. There's a gentleman at UCF whose name I cannot remember for the life of me, but he's been to a few SMC meetings specifically to talk about scrub jays. He does scrub jay relocations and some of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to send Mike an email, and then we can also ask him about this tomorrow, just what the best source would be for the scrub jays in particular, because that's a huge part of the eels mandate is scrub jay protection. So I'm confident we can get more information from Mike and eels.
Comment.
Member Thompson?
So, I wish the wetlands had more scrub habitat around them, but they don't. I mean, they just don't. However, they are excellent for wildlife corridor. When you look at the map and you see that string of wetlands, it goes all the way from north of Mims all the way down to Port St. John. It's a really important wildlife corridor. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. But our well fields down on Barna Avenue, that is ideal scrub jay habitat. It's overgrown. It needs to be managed, but that could be a really good area for scrub jays.
That could become a scrub jay mitigation bank then.
Yeah, and there is a lot of talk about moving jays off the Space Center. They're talking about moving them to the Lake Wales Ridge, which would really be a shame. We should not allow them to take our Brevard County jays and move them over, to other counties. We've got property in North Brevard. It's not inside Titusville, but there's some massive eel properties in the north end of the county that
Scottsmore,
yeah,
Flatwoods is one of the big ones.
Flatwoods for one.
Yeah.
That could support jays.
The only place kind of within the city that I know there is a scrub jay population is Fox Lake. The Fox Lake Preserve has, I'm not sure how big it is right now, but there has been a population out there.
There used to be some at Dicerandra, because when we had the Scrub Jay Festival in 2002, I remember Paul Smalzer transported, he took people over to Dicerandra, and of course, he's very interested in the Dicerandra Mint there, which is beautiful.
There very well may be
But I don't know.
trips I've made out there. I haven't seen any personally, but it's again, just like the well field, it is good environment
habitat.
form out there. So yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, we can talk to Mike and we can get a solid.
Well, it's about time the city, really stepped to the plate with this kind of stuff, because you're really, there's so much potential for nature in Titusville. And we need to be a contributing partner with the eel program. And the Fox Lake and I know Scottsmore Flatwoods is, further north, but let's see what we can find out and what what maybe the city will be motivated to do. Because now what happens is, according to the Natural Resource Plan, which Lily is pretty, she's responsible for it, one of our key objectives in doing this update is to improve the language on acquisition of wetlands. Now, what happens is, if you look at the conservation element, which we're going to look at tonight and discuss, the place in the comprehensive plan that acquisition of environmental land is discussed is the conservation element. And it is in objective 1, and it turns out that objective 1 focuses on listed species. And even, this is very old language in the conservation element right now, but even when the update for the 2040 plan, which went nowhere for reasons totally unrelated to the environmental language, which I guess they started working on that in 2018, 2019. Even at that time, when the 2040 and when the 2040 plan was in the works and when it was finalized, still the only acquisition that was discussed had to do basically with listed species. Now, there was some, minor reference to environmentally endangered land. We need to change that if we're going to include the wetlands. We need to include the wetlands and include not only partnering with the state, but they never discuss partnering with Brevard County. And it's time to look at that possibility and, see what we can do to work hand in hand with the EEL program to the extent that it's appropriate. So that's what we're going to look at right now. Okay?
Okay.
And that is this document which you all have. And he should have it back there.
One quick point of order first, Mary. On this one that you handed out that we just did, the 116.2.2, there's a typo.
Yeah, so
You found it on the bottom? The third line from the end, it should be R, and it just says AE.
That's not my typo, by the way.
Okay.
That's, it's going to have to be fixed.
All right, carry on. Thank you.
Okay. So we're just going to go through this since, you'll have a chance to think about it, possibly discuss it. And you'll see, the objective 1.1. And I'm going to make a suggestion that you add some words about including large wetland systems. You can read that. And then the critical habitat stuff is, I have no idea what the city exactly means by critical habitat. That's a legal term, used by Fish and Wildlife Service, for the endangered species. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is supposed to, designate for these listed species the critical habitat. And it seems like I don't see any critical habitat in Titusville.
Well, maybe we just haven't.
Maybe, and there's no critical habitat designated for scrub jay, as far as I know. I mean, it have to be specific habitat, and I don't think they've ever done it. Fish and Wildlife has dragged their feet on, providing this kind of information. So critical habitat, what does this mean in this document? So I just went with habitat.
Is that something we could request to get more information on and what the city thinks critical habitat is? And what that list is?
Right, so I was looking into, leading up to this meeting, the previous question you all had about how the city applies protection for endangered species and what that environmental assessments look like and things like that. From what I can find, there are sections of our code that trigger the need to submit an environmental assessment upon a site plan review. But in terms of defaulting to who's in charge of actually enforcing, protecting, and tracking those things, it's just whatever Fish and Wildlife has. So we don't have our own staff of biologists or anyone who can go out there and surveyors who can, work to that end.
I've talked with Natural Resources of Brevard County before about this back in 2017, and they're willing to contract that out to the city. They do that themselves in their own department.
And from what I understand, if we get an environmental assessment that does have, say, like a gopher tortoise or something, we'll partner with them for relocation and things like that.
Right.
If that's what, yeah.
So maybe we can partner with them to do the assessments then.
Well, from what I can tell, we are technically supposed to get an assessment for all the site plans. So,
I think that's a responsibility of the applicant.
right.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It's up to the applicant to decide whether or not he has endangered species and therefore to notify you as to whether or not he wants to have an assessment done. See, that's not the way it should be.
From what
We
I've
need to look
asked-
at it the other way around. When we get the site plan, we can look it up in GIS. We can look at the habitat and the soil types, and if those two cross-match to the type of endangered species, then we know that we should have a survey done.
So the other part of that is publicly noting endangered species and the legality around sharing, like where all of these spots are, if those need to be redacted, if it puts them at risk of people knowing those sorts of things. I think that was a part, I didn't get that answer or to that question yet either. So I don't know if it's something.
Something's not right here. There has to be a litmus test that we can use that's black and white that defines whether or not a survey needs to be done.
No, it does, every time. That's from what I asked staff.
But it's a question of who pulls the cord. Is it the fox guarding the chicken house that's pulling the cord and telling you, yes, I've got chickens here? Or is it somebody else that's a third party or a reputable person like the county saying yes or no, we will go and look and investigate?
So the applicant applies, and if they don't provide an environmental assessment on that first site plan submittal, we'll ask for one. And it has to be, it's usually someone like a credible contractor that's putting their, like engineers have to put their accreditation on the line, basically. So, but what we do with that's the part, if you're talking about publicly sharing that information.
No, I wasn't concerned so much about publicly sharing it. I was concerned with making use of that information that is public, the GIS data set, and the fact that we know what the soil types and the habitat are that are on every parcel in this county. So we should very easily be able to look at that soil habitat type and make a very simple cross-reference list of endangered species that are on that soil and habitat type. And if they are there, if that's what's on that property, if that soil and habitat is on that property, then my gosh, we should have an environmental assessment, whether the property developer decides to do one or not, is what I'm saying.
Well, what I'm confused about is when it reads what triggers an environmental assessment, but when I talk to staff, they all the site plans have environmental assessments. So I don't know what this means. That's what I'm saying.
I see. Yeah, Hector?
Well, that, of course, that.
Mary, may I ask a question, please, before you go on? something bothered me. Fish and Wildlife has records of areas. So for this area, the guys that are over Maxwell Bridge, that's the district that they work out of. And they're supposed to know every critter and everything that's in the district. It is not like, we're not, oh, here's a boundary with Titusville, we're not gonna cross it. So why can't we get that data from them? And look at the totality of our area within that. And then we can see what data they have for endangered species or critical species in that area.
I think
Because that's something they do. That's,
yeah, no, and we heavily, like, if that's what's on the environmental assessment, we'll work with the Fish and Wildlife and Brevard County and all of that. I thought the question was originally posed of what triggers an environmental assessment. Based on how this is written, it kind of makes the assumption that not everything does. And when I looked at specifically site plan reviews, they do. So maybe there's something I don't know.
no, I was just going back on the statements that were made that we don't know where the scrub jays are. We don't know where the lizards are. We don't know where the other birds are. Somebody knows. And I would think that Fish and Wildlife will probably have a good overview of where these areas are. I don't think it should be very hard to find out. The Audubon Society probably knows.
And I think, I understand your position, but also this information would be really useful for future developers who do come to this area, and that would save them a lot of headache, time, money, and to have to go through that process if they had that information available to them before. I know it's difficult to create boundaries and do those assessments specific to different sites, but we're talking about like areas of the city, I would think, that would be able to lend that kind of information for anybody who wants to access it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. I mean, they must have aerials and you have areas. Now, whether half a lot falls in that and the other half doesn't, that's a lower level at planning. Planning can take care of that, yes. But let me take a look at where all these corridors are.
I wonder if they're in the GIS data set too.
Okay, and that way you can start defining your large wetland areas with large bird or other areas that need some attention also. And you can start overlaying that and then get a picture so that when someone comes in for a permit, you can have an idea at that board of the criticality or not of any species or whatever, whoever lives there, in terms of the animals and all that. So that's what I was getting at. The data's got to be available. Okay? With as much data as we collect in the state, I just can't fathom the fact that a lot of the societies don't have it. I don't think we have asked, that's all.
Well, in Brevard County, the scientists at the Cape, particular Dave Brininger, and there was quite a few of his fellow scientists, and Paul Smalzer was the botanist.
I know.
And he used to do studies of the entire county. And then Eels had purchased quite a few properties in the south. The scrub jay population on the beach was extirpated, which is sad. The last study I had was just to the ones at the Cape, so I don't know. Maybe Jason, you can find out if there are recent studies by that team, because I suspect they are going. That study is forwarded to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Like you said, somebody's got to have the information.
Yeah, like I said, I'll talk to Mike about trying to find that. I'm in my eels GIS maps right now, trying to see what they have, and there's a thing for scrub jays, but it's not showing anything, so I don't know if it's just not something that has been updated on this particular GIS map or what, but
Right.
the one thing that is kind of relevant to this is it does show eels proposed properties, so the areas that the eels program wants to buy. And there are a few places within Titusville. Honestly, within the city itself, there's not very much. I'm looking at a couple of, like literally just a couple of spots.
Well,
But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only spots that are important. That's just what Eels has put on their list.
Is that for the scrub jay only? Because
No, that's in general. It just shows all the properties that are on the Eels list of properties they would like to try and acquire. And I mean, it's an exhaustive list.
right, and I think what we're trying to do is see, if since we see the value of these large wetlands with the accompanying buffer or land surrounding them, which are necessary to create the whole ecosystem. We're trying to see that we have the language in the city of Titusville to support this type of program, and that's what's in this objective one. And so I think we'll go on with this to see if we can just get through a cursory discussion of this. And you can think about it in between now and the next meeting, but, policy 1.1.1 says that they're supposed to identify state and federal listed wildlife species habitat. Potential wildlife habitat and sites for listed species shall be depicted on a map by 2012, which will indicate the presence of state and federal listed wildlife species as per data provided by Fish and Wildlife. That's FWC and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I don't know if that list was ever done. I doubt it, because, strange thing, I compared this language to 2040 plan. Those first two policies are not included in the 2040 plan, so I think they slipped through the cracks.
Oops.
Because the 2040 plan actually is very good on listed species. I certainly have said enough things about the wetlands in the 2040 plan, but that's a different matter. The listed species language is good. And then, it said the city in 1.1.2, the city shall work with other agencies having jurisdiction to conduct an inventory of state and federal listed wildlife species habitat remaining within its boundaries. Well, I don't think the city ever, I could be wrong, but to me, I have not heard of that in the city of Titusville.
So we should ask as a TEC to have a copy of that report.
Well, or Jason should find out what's going on.
Well, Jason's not part of the city. He's part of Eels.
Yeah, but see, he lives in the city.
Well, so do I.
But okay, but you don't want,
The
look.
point is that
what
this
you don't
was
want
supposed to
do,
be done.
You don't want to embarrass staff. You want to get along with them. And so you say, do you know of a inventory of potential wildlife habits and sites of listed species, perhaps depicted on a map? Do you know that? Instead of, did you ever do this, you know? It's just a matter of,
From what I was also told, the comprehensive plan is a list of like goals and targets and
Right.
aspirations for the city for us to achieve, but not necessarily means we've accomplished by any means the exhaustive list of everything in there. It's just our vision, pretty much.
Well,
So,
I would agree with that if it was an objective or a goal, but this is policy.
we're talking
this
about the
is-
comprehensive plan, right?
We're talking about comprehensive plan and the natural resources objective,
well,
1.1.3.
fact of the matter is, Michael, you know, I know you've been around for a very long time in the environmental advocacy role, and you know how many policies different local jurisdictions have basically ignored or pushed out that date multiple times, or then just gotten rid of that date.
But we're here working on this comprehensive plan,
Right.
our comprehensive plan,
Right,
the
right,
conservation
right.
element of our comprehensive
So
plan.
let's get on with policy 1.3.
We're gonna just
and-
skip over to 1.2 for.
Oh, that's the same thing. I mean, has this been done? But 1.1.3, this is about, this, we have to define these environmentally endangered lands as best we can. And right now, they are minimizing the wetlands.
Yes.
And to top it off, they don't even mention working with Brevard County. Well, that needs to change. You can see that in policy 1.1.3, I do suggest that we add with that, you know, we'll cooperate with the state and with Brevard County in acquiring and conserving environmentally endangered lands to be preserved through acquisition and/or regulations. I mean, that needs to be in there.
I agree.
And then for strategy 1.1.3.1, now it says the city shall develop a procedure to identify such lands. Review and evaluation shall include at a minimum the following. Okay, first thing is that state and federal listed wildlife and estuary life species habitat. That's the focus of this objective 1.
And estuary, good.
Now, what it said about wetlands, it did say wetlands, natural lakes, lagoon, and rivers. But I suggest, and if anybody's got any other wording, my suggestion is that we expand the stuff about the wetlands and the wetland systems and the land around those wetlands. If you can think about, you know, what language you'd like to put there, but, and then just make natural lakes, lagoon, and rivers a separate one, but it just seems like to have the city get into focus, you know, the environmentally endangered lands that they have, in terms of saving them. And, you know, for a long time, the object was, you know, just, I mean, let's face it, development, you know. And it's not like these are just all, what you want is developable commodities. You want the best saved. Because Titusville is supposed to be the gateway to nature and space. Right?
I have an issue with sufficient buffer.
Yeah, that was
I'm not sure
wondering.
how to define that.
Anybody, if
Can Can we add,
Well, yeah, same thing with a large wetland. What's large?
can we,
This is totally revisable. I'm just throwing the idea out.
would adding language like and respective watersheds
Yes,
include
Oh,
that?
that's good.
that would be very good to add there. We said something about not disturbing the flow, the hydrologic flow, which unfortunately seems to get done anyway. I wonder if we can strengthen that too, and make sure that we're not disrupting the underground flow and hydrology.
See, between now and next meeting, you can take a look at this, because I know some of you have asked for some homework. And, I struggled with this. I didn't think buffer was exactly right either. And it's it's that watershed on the property.
But Mary, is when we speak in terms of assumed sizes, we each have a different assumption of what large is.
What?
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a human thing. Every human has a different assumption of what large is, what small is.
Right.
A different version of sufficient.
Exactly.
Okay, sufficient may be a number between 1 and 10. The same thing for large. So you leave it leaves open to a lot of discussion and interpretation. Okay.
Fuzziness.
Yeah, and we know we want the ones that are greater than 5 acres, 5 acres and greater. We know,
Yeah.
I mean, it could put, like, I thought of putting that, in fact, I did, and I don't know if it'd be better or worse.
We need to anchor along those lines, perhaps, because we go
Okay,
one house in 5 acre. Okay? And
yeah,
we
the
need to
5
follow-
acres is the
We
cutoff.
need to follow that anchor if we're gonna use words like that. And
Okay.
That way we get away from the large and no, it's been defined already, it's 5 acres.
Right. That would be a good break point, I think, for the difference between large
You
and
guys
small.
agree with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
surprisingly, even though you brought it up.
Once in a while, I do support. I'm into measurements.
Yes, of course.
I'm your number guy.
Indeed.
okay.
So we can do 5-acre wetlands,
Yeah.
wetland systems.
We'll figure out something before next time. We
Okay.
just wanted to get a little overview of this.
What's a wetland protection area?
What do you mean a wetland
You
protection?
have in item 6 now, was 5.
Wellhead
Wellhead
protection.
protection, I'm sorry.
This is, yeah, this,
Being dyslexic is really a wonderful advantage.
now, it turns out in number 7, it says critical habitats identified by the East Coast Florida Regional Planning Council. It's the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, but Lily and I were talking, and we don't think they do that anymore.
No, they don't.
So there's 3 references in here to the Regional Planning Council, and
It's gonna have to go. Who can we get to do this? Fish and Wildlife?
no, see, that's the thing about critical habitats. Do we want that definition, or, I mean, is there a glossary with the city's definition, or
There's in the back of, yeah,
does it have a?
I don't know if it has that. I do know there is a definitions.
Yeah, words
Maybe
that aren't
we-
in the definition
Maybe
file.
that's something you could check on, Lily. If there's a definition of critical habitats. Because.
Are we talking about a definition within the comprehensive plan or, okay?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I'm looking at the full PDF and I don't see anything like a glossary.
So critical habitat isn't defined in state statute, but our land development regulations define it as threatened or endangered species, open parentheses, stated function, close parentheses. So I'm not entirely sure what that means, but we do have a definition in the LDRs.
That's below this level, though. It might be worthwhile to have a glossary added to the comp plan so that we have our definitions at this level.
Just define it in this.
Or we can define it, if
Yeah.
we can
Or we
get-
can define it in as we
Because
write it out.
it doesn't, the way this is,
That's a
the way
great-
this thing is written, it doesn't seem to match, the
Right.
federal definition, critical habitat from what I know about, because, I mean, you have to go through all this, study, and it's just really something, Fish and Wildlife Service avoids. And of course, now with the Endangered Species Act being threatened, let's put it that way. I don't think it's gonna happen at the moment, but anyway, in the habitat corridors, that was something that has been studied by the state, though. We know that because, the Closing the Gaps document over the years, and, in fact, I think Thousand Friends has, a webinar either coming up or they just had one about that, thing, but
The East Central Florida Greenway, as a matter of fact, is what they were talking about, Thousand Friends. That might be something.
did you go to that?
I've been to it before. They've done it a couple of times now, and I've watched at least two of them. But that might be something worth throwing in here on line 7.
See, it is the like number 7, critical habitat.
Yeah, it just says habitat corridors, but they've actually got a name for it. They call it the East Central Florida Greenway. And that's part of our wetland system is a piece of that. Connects us all the way up through Scottsmore and north, and then south to, as well. So that might be
And is that,
something to write into here.
yeah, okay, so is that the planning council's
I believe
stuff,
so.
or? We'll have to check on that, the East Central Florida Greenway,
Right.
yeah.
That's what it's called, isn't it? There's an east and a west. There's 2 of them on down each side of the state. Yeah,
It is a wildlife
There's a
corridor.
Florida East Coast Greenway,
East Coast Greenway, that's it.
and,
East,
yeah,
East Coast
there's a
Greenway.
417 Greenway.
That's a
There's all
road.
kinds of,
That's less green and more concrete. I'm pretty sure. It's a bait and switch.
oh, this is a trail, though. This is
Yeah.
this is like part of the trail system. That's, yeah, that's a bike trail. East Central Regional Rail Trail. I don't see anything that looks like it's all rail trails and different trails. There's no like,
There's the Florida Wildlife Corridor.
that's, yeah.
Is that what
It's
you're
a
talking
Florida
about?
Greenways Initiative, started in 1991.
But I think
Greenways and Trails now is what it's
that's
called.
it, Greenways and Trails. Look up
So I was
Florida
looking at
Wildlife
1,000
Corridor.
Friends of Florida here, if I can get it to load.
That's the trail that goes across from the hospital all the way north.
Right.
Well, there was remember that document, Closing the Gaps? That, we heard a bunch about, back in the 2000 timeframe. And then, it seemed like you'd hear another, Closing the Gaps, all these developments took place, and I know through North Brevard, part of this went.
You found it too? Sorry.
Did she find something?
We found the map. The Florida
Florida
Wildlife
Wildlife
Corridor
Corridor.
map.
Okay, that, is it go through Farmington then too?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's a Florida Wildlife Corridor? Maybe that's what we should say,
Yes.
critical habitats and Florida
Wildlife Corridor.
Wildlife Corridor.
Yes.
Okay, so on to the next page.
Yay.
This is a cleanup thing, which the 2040 plan clean, on 1.1.5, it says the owner / developer of development in the city of Titusville, it should be property, and they cleaned that up in the 2040 plan, but like I say, 2040 plan went nowhere. It had nothing to do with environmental language. So now, let's take a look at 1.1.6. Should this include wetlands? Now, this is the city's purchasing. As far as I know, they've never spent anything on purchasing environmental land. Is that true?
Purchased, I believe, some waterfront land.
Some waterfront land they purchased. Oh, that's right, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, in 2007, we had the waterfront
They
referendum,
had the water, okay.
which we
that's cool.
just paid off last year, I think.
Okay, so, well,
We should do it again.
yeah. In fact, that was discussed in the Inspire placemaking thing, you know, you could.
It's in the natural resources. It's in the natural resources.
Yeah. So that's something we could consider, you know. Just making a little contribution wouldn't hurt, would it? Anyway, so it says the city shall purchase if the city shall purchase if economically feasible properties identified as, I got rid of critical habitat, put as environmentally endangered lands.
Could be identified by Brevard County eels.
Well, you know,
Titusville Selection and Management Committee is a little light on membership at the moment.
I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, I feel like I don't think Eels is gonna undertake like a massive redesignation of like their target properties, and I feel like that might limit us a little bit if we only go
it's
with
just if their target properties happen to land within the city, poof, there's your answer.
well,
I guess I just don't wanna limit us to only those.
Of course, you mean inside the city?
Yeah.
For the city's comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
What else can we,
let's
no.
Okay, so eels plus.
not push the
Eels
eel
plus.
program.
Yeah,
We shouldn't push the eel program. They are amazing.
thank you.
Seeing we're talking to the chair.
I just want to hook onto the amazing and ride the bandwagon, you know?
No, I mean, I really feel that way. I'm totally in favor of eels. Okay, so I moved, first of all, I got rid of the language about the
Right. East Central Florida.
Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
Right.
And then I moved that selection criteria to, you know, it says that greater weight should, on the selection of lands, you know, for environmental reasons rather than public use and recreation. And that falls into line with EO's, you know, a referendum language, which basically says, and I know it's been rather hotly debated at times, but the environmental value of the lands EO's purchases and the city here, which is old language, they're really interested in the environmental value rather than the recreational value, which you would get in a park. But this is talking about the habitat. So I moved that down to environmental strategy 1.1.6.2. Environmental values shall be prioritized even where public use may be limited or inappropriate. Because what happens is that sentence is too long. Because they have a very interesting sentence at the end. It's nice and long. Starts, the following criteria shall be adhered to in the implementation of this policy. The protection of environmentally endangered lands can be accomplished through acquisition, easements, land. I put land donation because you know there's lands that people own that are conservation land, and the city has, let's put it this way. The city should look into land donations as a possible source. They shouldn't just reject it, for example, because they might have to do a little work on the property until, for example, EOS could get a hold of it. Or there may be some people who own some conservation land, you know, with conservation land use, who may own some property and, you know, may want to donate it at some point in time to the city. I know that in the city of Rockledge, there was a property which was very valuable, which was donated by a friend of mine when she moved. She had the money to carry on her life, and she wanted to do something good for the city. This was probably about,
Eels just took a donation of land about a month ago from a property owner that just said, you know, I want my land to be preserved. And so they donated to Eels, and it was fortunately part of an out parcel of other Eels lands. But yeah, it definitely does happen, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it should say land donations too, plural, not singular, to match the
Okay.
rest of the sentence.
Okay, I'll put an S on it. And it says transfer development, what, should I say transfer of development rights?
Yes,
Okay,
and purchase of development right,
Okay.
rather.
purchase of development
Or
rights.
Transfer or purchase of development rights.
What's it, transfer? Purchase of development, I just would put purchase of development rights. And other planning tools, whoever, you know, somebody thinks there's other planning tools, I'm sure there are. Let's keep all options open, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Before we leave this, would mitigation fit in here?
Oh, right.
That's a good catch.
That is a good catch.
Mitigation's one thing, mitigation, restoration is another,
Well, you could define it
perhaps,
to point it in the right direction.
right?
We'll have to think about how we want to word this mitigation.
Yeah, yes.
But it's the definite, you know, all those things down in Grant, Valcaria, with the youth program is, you know, all that mitigation, you know, that Zeke Nations did and over the years. And, you know, now, I mean, we got John Shepard on the field committee, and, you know, he's done some a big one I know of in Palm Bay, and he likes to work on that stuff. You know, these people care.
Something I just want to point out as we kind of maybe think through mitigation in this section, or also land donation as was discussed, is that the purpose of this policy as written is for the purchase of property. So those might need to go in a standalone section or a strategy, but as far as purchasing property, land donation wouldn't qualify. The city can already accept land donations without that being in the comp plan, but this
I see.
policy is more about commanding the city where economically feasible to make purchases.
Okay,
Good catch. We'll figure out
have to
how
rework
to
that.
deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be as simple as changing that first part to say the city shall acquire instead of purchase? Would that?
I guess acquiring, purchasing, those are active undertakings by the city. Land donation is a acceptance from somebody else who's making the actual action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if it would fit under this policy heading, but you could come up with language stating if somebody offers to donate certain qualifications of land, the city must accept if economically feasible or something along those lines. But right now, the city has full discretion to accept any property that somebody wants to donate to it.
Okay.
But is it designated towards what they say? Like, would they the city can accept it, but then are they free to do with what they want with it? Or can,
The person donating the property could specify in the deed
Okay.
what they want the use to go to. If it's not specified, then yeah, the city can use it as it sees fit. It's property owner.
Yeah. So
And I apologize if we're getting off topic here, but does that go to city council? Like if there's a donation put up, does that go to city council for a vote? Does it go through anyone else or?
It usually goes to council on consent agenda. We actually recently accepted a donation of land of property that is outside of the city boundaries, but is in the Wellfield recharge area that I believe we're just going to leave vacant.
Okay.
well, thanks for that information, and we'll make sure we got it right. We'll check back.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see if we can get
Mosey
through
on.
some of the rest of this.
Sure.
In the next 10 minutes.
Well.
Okay, you know, it says priorities shall, 1.1.6.2, priorities shall be given to the acquisition of lands which are identified as environmentally endangered lands, and to those areas known to be important as habitat corridors and the movement of wildlife. And then, you know, I move that environmental values shall be prioritized even where public use may be limited or inappropriate. And then, okay, so the next one, I don't know what's going on. This policy says that where acquisition of property is not fiscally possible, any public or private use of land greater than 3 acres shall require a management plan to minimize harm to state and federal listed wildlife species and its habitat. I don't know if that's true. I mean, do they require a management plan?
How that's been applied.
Yeah, do you know how that's been applied? I mean, can you check? Yeah, Lily can check. That'll be good. And then, got rid of, in the next one, that's, you know, the agencies that recognize species is listed, and I got rid of Regional Planning Council, and then, you know, 1.1.8, I think that's pretty reasonable. And the next question I had was on 1.1.8.3, it's a strategy 1.1.8.3. The city shall cooperate with these agencies in locating potential introduction sites for designated species. It said on existing conservation lands. Or, I mean, what about private lands? I mean, do we want to limit locating introduction sites for scrub jays to existing conservation lands, maybe future conservation lands, or should we include private lands? That's my question.
Do we even have say over that? If it's
That's what
a
I was wondering.
listed species, I mean, I know that there are instances where private lands have been approved by, FWC or U.S. Fish and Wildlife to take endangered species. But I kind of feel like that's outside our scope as a city.
It says the scope is that the city shall cooperate in locating potential introduction sites.
Okay.
Do you think is that what you meant, that that's outside? Or is it just that where the sites are is out of our?
I mean, I guess cooperating with those agencies, that's kind of a no-brainer to me. I just feel like
You stop,
talking about the private lands, like I mean, whether it's conservation land owned by the city or it's private lands within city limits,
With a conservation easement.
yeah, it's up to that agency where it's gonna go.
maybe we should
I mean, we're just
put a
cooperating
period.
with those.
Maybe
what I
we
did.
should put a period after species.
That's what I did.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, like
Okay.
just
Sounds
say
like
that
a
we
plan.
will cooperate with them,
Right.
which seems almost ridiculous to me that we have to say that, but.
Well, this is
guess-
old, I mean, this is very old language. And I'm not sure what year it was done in, but, because it.
Oh,
you
at
know,
least.
But anyway, that's a good, we'll just put a period and then, pardon me?
This is probably done a couple of decades ago, back when we actually did have scrub jays on different places
Oh, they
around
were
town.
allowed,
And,
yeah.
a lot of this is moot simply because we're so overdeveloped now.
But we do need to work on the possible introduction,
Getting them back.
sites in case it's needed, and we need to do what we can about the gopher tortoises, so.
Like the Silvestri property, for example, if we could acquire that, the uplands along the 95 area might be perfect scrub jay habitat. That's part of the coastal ridge still.
And of course, it's gotta be connected, and the
Yes.
properties have to be a certain
Size.
size for each territory. And the last thing is a typo in 1.1.10. The city shall protect existing natural reservations. They meant resources. So, that's all I got. And it's 4 minutes to go.
So our homework is to review this.
You can just think
Come up
about
with,
this, and if you get any information, we'll welcome it at the next meeting. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say. For those of you who weren't here the last time, we had discussed whether for example, Verona, the reason why they did not retain the conservation land use designation was due to the annexation. And I did research that, and it wasn't due to the annexation. It was due to something else. So the annexation is not the problem, but Michael brought that up, and I thought it was a very good question.
We have a technical word for that in engineering parlance. It's called shenanigans,
Oh,
with a capital S, yes. All right, well, we definitely got some homework and some things to think about. I guess that brings us back to the agenda, if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. So we're back to petitions and requests from the public. Seeing none, I shall ask for member reports and start with the ladies first. Nothing, no report from member Tucker.
No, I don't think I have one, other than we're excited, really excited about the Selection and Management Committee coming tomorrow.
Wonderful.
Been working on some videos for y'all. We're gonna have coffee and donuts at the restaurant and look at some videos before, and we have the church bus too, so it'll be fun, it'll be interesting.
That's great.
Yeah, so looking forward to that.
Hector? No report?
The only report is that
I was gonna say.
Blue Origin is trying to launch a rocket, and they have a test fire scheduled. It was scheduled for today. It did not take place. It's been moved. If it moves to Saturday, then the launch will be next week. So be on the lookout for the test firing. That's a smoke coming out and no rocket lifting. That will be the right thing. If it lifts, it's a problem. And then next week, there'll be a launch schedule for Blue Origin. So
How much deluge water do they use on a test like that?
they use less than Starship by magnitudes, and a little more than a Falcon. And the reason is they use a laminar flow table environment from their trough where the flame bucket is. And so a lot of it just splashes and then it comes down on that table. Right. But number-wise, I'm not sure. So let me look that up and I'll get back with you on that. Because I don't want to give you a number and.
That's right, because then I'll publicize it.
Yeah, right. I understand. So anyway, be on the lookout for a launch next week for Blue Origin.
Go ahead.
I forgot something, I'm sorry, I
Sure,
brought
no, go
presents
ahead.
for you guys tonight.
Oh, boy.
So it's the IRL NEP annual report, so, yeah.
Oh, boy. Wow.
So have fun, and I have some for you guys too.
Excellent. Yeah, the Falcon 9 uses 764,146 gallons on a launch. And since they're permitted to do 120, they're permitted to do 84 million gallons worth of potable water loss.
Where's it gonna come from?
I know, we don't know where it's gonna come from.
Bigger pipe.
Well, that's his, that's always an engineer's design, re-engineer it. Member reports?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about some SMC stuff earlier, but I've told myself I want to do a better job of bringing back reports to you guys from our SMC meetings. So a few other things. One thing that I think is important for us is in regards to the 405 Mar property that SMC is going to be touring tomorrow. For SMC to really deeply consider that, one of the stipulations that's been put in place by the committee is that we get willing seller applications from the PD North and South developers. It was reported today that our acquisition folks with the Nature Conservancy, they have reached out to them and they have had conversations. They have not submitted a willing seller application yet, but they have indicated a potential interest. So if that were to happen, then basically that whole stretch of wetlands there along Singleton would be considered. So it's much more desirable for eels when we have that contiguous area there. So that's positive movement, I think. Hopefully, we can get more going forward with that. We have also, we're finally going forward with some acquisitions, which I've been on that committee for almost 3 years now, and this is the first time we've actually had the opportunity to buy some property, which is pretty exciting. Right now, it's a couple small parcels, one up at Mims and one down near Malabar, but it's exciting that we're finally getting to move forward with some of that stuff. And actually, we're going to be having a special meeting, I believe, in the next week or two in order to get votes in on that before the next county commission meeting, because we didn't have a quorum today. But yeah, so some exciting stuff. And also, there's 2 other properties in Titusville that we are very much looking at. It's the Itilly property and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the second property, but they're Mediland, I think maybe, yeah. So they're pretty much adjacent to, or just to the north of the city marina and the boat manufacturing plant there. One of them, the Mediland property, actually also includes 10 acres of lagoon bottom, which is a very exciting prospect because that would give us the ability then to do things like seagrass plantings or other experimental things out there without having to go through quite as much permitting. So some really exciting stuff happening with EOS right now. So like I said, I'm going to do my best to remember to bring some of that back to you guys. But yeah, I'm really excited with what's happening with the SMC right now.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that Mediland property, that could be, and Itilly, could also be Italy, okay. Could be a nice extension of the chain of lakes.
Yes.
Because it's all connected to the
Connected.
chain of lakes.
Wow. Thanks.
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Okay, Member Burdette?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Well, I want to remind everybody about Earth Day Saturday at the Enchanted Forest. And there's going to be food and song and all kinds of events. And I guess we're not going to be doing face painting this year. So maybe next year when we do this, we can actually plan to have some kind of educational material that we can hand out to people, you know, particularly about flooding and stormwater and what we're doing on the TEC to help them live a better life.
I was actually thinking today that it's kind of silly that Eels doesn't have an SMC tent there, and that's something that I definitely want to try and do next year, just to raise awareness about what our community
And
does
it's
too.
y'all's property.
Yeah, totally,
you
yeah.
know. Get on that. Good deal. Okay, Lily?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my question for the board as well. If there was any sort of handouts or topics, we have a lot of action items in our sustainability action plan, and I believe the natural resources plan about all the, just asking for us to do more outreach. You guys know we need public support or just public awareness on a lot of stuff. So these opportunities, if we want to maybe at some point on our future agenda talk about a strategy for outreach. I've been hearing like some other cities, they kind of put on their own events similar to that of the Earth Day level and invite all the other environmental people out. So
We do a harvest festival in the fall as well.
Right.
And
There's
that'd
a lot
be
of
another opportunity that we could, yeah.
a lot of opportunities for TEC to come out, and it's just for me knowing, yeah, what kind of handouts, what do you want to talk about? Maybe get a survey from people. How do you want them to engage or interact? I could tell you like our recycling rates are really flat. We could talk about, you know, and anything like that, like what we want to work on basically. So maybe look through the Sustainability Action Plan. I will be giving my annual update on that at the next council 5:30 meeting. At least I'm scheduled to. So as long as that doesn't change, it might be something worth considering where the gaps are, what we need the public's help with. Sometimes we just need to ask. And then on your April 30th meeting, TEC meeting, the consultant will be here for the urban forest management plan. And we all have your one-on-ones. So if you have any questions, they're going to give like a whole interactive presentation and everything. So from what I've heard. But just think about maybe what you want to talk and ask them too.
Is that the one-on-one we all signed up for
Yep, the one-on-ones.
at the end of the month?
Pardon?
At the end of the month?
Yeah.
Yes.
On the 30th.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
That sounds like a good future agenda topic. which is just a nice segue into the next item on the agenda.
Yes. Yes, that would be one of them. And then just wetlands as usual after that, if that's.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to talk about our sustainability. I think we need to talk about stormwater. I think we need to talk about flooding and what we're doing, what the city's doing to work on the flooding plan. You know, the fact that we got a stormwater master plan that we're about to have approved by council, hopefully. And that's worth speaking to the public about, to reassure them, to let them know that we're doing things, that we're listening.
So I think we talked about it at our meeting. If you can come up, or maybe you guys can help, we can create a list of priorities or projects that the TEC is working on that we can, make the print large and make it bullets, and we can tape it to our table at Enchanted Forest.
Yeah.
So that if somebody comes up and says, well, what do you guys do anyway? We can look at that list that's taped to the table. It's like a cheat sheet.
Yep.
But it would be really good to have that.
Yeah, I've seen some examples, like certain cities that focus heavily on like managing their waste reduction. I'm looking at you because I remember you were heavily involved, but they would do demonstrations of showing like a recycling bin and basically taking the whole front off of it and showing like what goes in it, how you're supposed to package it. It was very like eye drawing. I know you have your horseshoe crabs and everything, but it was impactful, like almost like a demonstration / eye-catching art project. It would be crazy for us. I already sent it to the Brevard County recycling coordinator. He's, I believe, looking at trying to get like a whole trailer worth of outreach things. But that's only, trash is only one little section of the sustainability report. If you want to do flooding, we have those maps that we can bring out.
Right.
And talk about flood risk. That's a huge thing.
Can you bring some of those big poster-sized maps
Yeah, like
to the Enchanted Forest?
Yeah, I think I have the 500-year inundation map.
That's a good one, and the other one that I really like is the topography one that has all the yellows and oranges. I'm trying to think of what.
I have a lot of maps in my office, so
Huh?
I'm welcome to
How
share.
about the elevation map?
Yeah, the elevation map. That's really interesting.
Have I brought that out before? I don't know if
I don't know, they had it at the stormwater meeting, when we were out.
And there's the interactive one online too,
yeah,
which we could
still
bring a
don't know where
laptop
it
or
is.
something.
But okay, I'll look for it.
I can send you a picture of it.
Okay.
I probably have.
I can tell you flooding is a big deal around the city. And it's something that is spoken freely in conversations, because there seems to be, in my opinion, a lack of understanding where city boundaries are. Okay, and District 1, flooding, Lamplighter and those places over there, they're all in the county, but everybody thinks it's in Titusville because the way the news came out, it was flooding in Titusville. There was
Yeah.
no definition.
Yeah, even near Titusville comes across as Titusville.
Okay, and so I'll share with you that, I have friends that, well, what are you guys doing? And I have friends that live in District 1, and they're asking me, what were we doing? And I have to tell them, I'm sorry, you don't live in the city.
Right.
So I have no idea what the county's doing to help you.
I
And
think
so
it's an $800 million shortfall.
it's a big deal. So
in the county.
we need to define, the flooding I think is gonna be questions we're gonna get more
Yeah.
as
And
the
we could-
rainy season comes.
We can speak on the cities for sure. I'm not quite sure about the county.
Again, it's just a matter of how the news came out and how people perceive. And what they perceive is that truth, not anything else.
Okay.
Any other topics for future agenda items while we're here? Okay, hearing none, then I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.